please welcome the President of the Radiological Society of North America, Dr. Kurt Langlotz.
Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Kurt Langlotz, and I'm honored to call the opening session of the RSNA 110th Scientific Assembly and Annual Meeting to order. The RSNA Annual Meeting is a time to come together, to learn, share experiences, and celebrate the radiology community. In the spirit of celebration, I'd like to take a moment to recognize the distinguished individuals that will be presented with RSNA's highest honors and awards at a special private ceremony tomorrow. RSNA gold medals will be presented to Dr. James Borgstead, Dr. Elizabeth Burnside, and Dr. Beverly Coleman. RSNA honorary membership will be presented to Dr. Adrian Brady, Dr. Maria Helena S. Mendonça, and Dr. Stephen Buckseal Wong. I'd also like to acknowledge this year's inaugural Outstanding Community Impact Award recipient, Dr. Frank Minja, the 2024 Outstanding Educator, Dr. Petra Lewis, and Outstanding Researcher, Dr. Jeffrey Jarvik. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Todd Pawlicki, President of the American Association of Physicists in Medicine, co-sponsor of the physics sessions at this annual meeting. Great to see you. Thank you.
Colleagues and friends, it is an honor to stand before you today as President of the American Association of Physicists in Medicine. As we gather in this vibrant city, my hometown, I am reminded of the profound impact that our two organizations have had on the fields of medical imaging and radiation therapy. For decades, AAPM and RSNA have had a strong alliance, working together to advance the science of practice and practice of our disciplines. Our collaboration has yielded countless innovations that have truly transformed patient care. I'm excited to report that our partnership is stronger than ever. The AAPM is a professional organization focused on advancing medical physics, particularly in the areas of radiation therapy, imaging, and radiation safety. With over 10,000 members and 30 staff working across more than 400 committees, we support education, research, and professional development to ensure the safe and effective use of physics in medicine. AAPM's latest strategic plan includes advancing the contributions of medical physicists in current clinical areas, as well as expanding into newer areas of clinical practice. We will be preparing medical physicists to become expert practitioners with the latest advancements like artificial intelligence and data curation, while also supporting the development of breakthrough advancements in these areas. AAPM will strive to ensure that medical physicists are available wherever they're needed. This includes any underserved communities, whether they exist nationally or internationally. Towards the end of 2025, AAPM will be holding a summit on the future of medical physics. This event will explore key areas shaping our field, including computational medicine, novel clinical settings and modalities, and finally, workforce, equity, and access to care. We look forward to the active participation of leading organizations, including RSNA, as we envision the future of medical physics. I believe there's a bright future between our two associations, one that is marked by unprecedented collaboration, innovation, and progress. AAPM is committed to working closely with RSNA to tackle the challenges and seize the opportunities that lie ahead. In closing, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to RSNA for their unwavering support of the AAPM and our shared mission. Together, we will continue to advance the science of our fields and improve patient outcomes. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you all the very best 2024 RSNA annual meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. The RSNA annual meeting has been held consecutively in Chicago for almost 4 decades. And returning each year is a special tradition, creating a shared experience that's unique to the RSNA annual meeting. I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Sam Reddy, President of the Chicago Radiological Society. And let me just add a sincere thank you to all the volunteers from the Chicago Society who helped make our annual meeting a great success. Dr. Reddy.
Thank you to the RSNA for continuing this tradition where the Chicago Radiologic Society has the opportunity to be part of the opening session. As we come together at the RSNA, we need to take a moment to connect, not just with each other as professionals in radiology, but with ourselves, at our families, and the broader community. I decided to reflect on the past 10 years of RSNA meeting themes as I started to create my presentation. The common thread here is to inspire, connect, and lead. Chicago is a great place for inspiration. We all know about the Chicago fire of 1871. This rendition shows people fleeing across the Randolph Bridge from the fire. The bridge still stands today, and this, of course, is a city as we know it. With many burning issues in our field of radiology, we have to come together and connect to find the inspiration and the resilience to move forward for our profession and our patients. Our profession demands precision and focus, and it is easy to forget about our own health and happiness. But our well-being is the foundation of everything we do. If we are not taking care of ourselves physically, mentally, and emotionally, we cannot give our best to our patients, our teams, or our families. Take time to connect with the culture of Chicago at the RSNA. There are many, many ethnic neighborhoods, some of them depicted here. Christkindl Market combines German and European influences for the holidays at the Daily Plaza, downtown Chicago. Devon Street is well known for wonderful Indian food and shopping. Or take a trip to Chinatown, just down the street from us. Enjoy time at the theater, make time to try the local foods, or try many of the fine dining experiences in Chicago. The Palmer House is noted to be where chocolate brownies were created in 1893. Having connections to our communities, cultures, and people increase our resilience. They remind us of why we love what we do, both inside and outside of work. As leaders in our field, we are facing tough challenges with declining reimbursements, radiology shortages, lack of sufficient radiology technologists, and ever-increasing patient volumes. These pressures can really weigh on us. Remembering to connect with family and friends helps ground us as we lead through these challenges in our profession. Take time to connect with each other while at the RSNA, maybe relieve some stress with axe throwing or enjoy a game of ping pong over food and drinks with family and friends. Or take time out for yourself at a spa. The reality is, to be effective leaders and passionate professionals, we need to connect with ourselves and find a balance. These moments we take to recharge ourselves allow us to be better at work and in life. As we talk about AI at RSNA, take time to experience the augmented reality venue in Chicago, to experience art in a new way. AI is already changing our lives in so many ways. We have to embrace it as a tool to better our profession and understand how it can deepen our lives. Finally, as we embark on various sessions and workshops this week, I encourage you to connect with your own passions and your personal goals. Let's walk away from this meeting inspired, not just to advance in our profession, but to live more fully in every aspect of our lives. Thank you, and have a wonderful time at the RSNA.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Tessa Cook, Vice Chair of Practice Transformation in Radiology at the University of Pennsylvania. It's my great honor to introduce Dr. Kurt Langlotz, my mentor and colleague, and my attending on my very first day of residency. Kurt and his younger brother and sister grew up in a suburb of St. Paul, Minnesota, raised by a single mom who was a music teacher and musician. He loved sports and the outdoors, spent family vacations swimming and fishing, and worked shoveling snow, delivering papers, and frying fish at a fast food restaurant. Despite falling in love with computers in high school, he went to Stanford at the age of 17, thinking he would major in chemistry. To our good fortune, he instead found a major called human biology, with a concentration in computer models of biological systems. This enabled him to take his first course in AI. At Stanford, he earned a bachelor's, master's, and MD PhD, and was part of a team that implemented the first clinical AI system to help plan cancer chemotherapy. In medical school, he met his wife, Mary, and they decided to leave sunny California to embrace the four seasons of Philadelphia, where he spent 25 years at the University of Pennsylvania. During residency and fellowship, they had two children, Bryce and Claire, now a software engineer and a data scientist. While on faculty at Penn, Kurt held nearly a dozen different leadership roles. But perhaps most importantly, he mentored many of today's radiology leaders in health services research and informatics. He and his wife returned to Stanford in 2014, where his NIH-funded lab operates at the cutting edge of healthcare AI, and he is director of the Amy Center and Senior Associate Vice Provost for Research. Kurt has been a leader in education, research, and innovation, having published over 200 scholarly articles, written a book on radiology reporting, led multiple international RSNA informatics initiatives, and even founded 3 healthcare companies. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Kurt Langlotz, President of the RSNA, for his address entitled Building Intelligent Connections. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Tessa, for that wonderful introduction. It's been such a pleasure to watch your amazing career and collaborate with you on so many exciting research projects. Well, wow. I've been attending these presidential addresses for the past 30 years, and now standing up front and on the big screen, it is a special moment for me. I'm grateful and fortunate to be here and delighted to welcome you all to RSNA 2024. The theme I chose for this year's meeting is Building Intelligent Connections. As technology has advanced in recent years, imaging has become central to patient care. But many radiologists still work in relative isolation with few breaks. If we want to thrive as a specialty, we need to build a new foundation for our practice, one that's based on connections. Connections with other healthcare practitioners to improve patient care, connections between new technologies and systems for better workflow, and connections with each other and the broader world to exchange ideas and to innovate. Over the next 20 minutes, I'll highlight where we can build more intelligent connections and establish meaningful collaboration between humans and machines in our world of radiology. I'd like to start with a patient story. As I tell this story, try to spot where we can build more intelligent connections. The year is 2015. Lane is a 55-year-old woman who's a former smoker and had hemolytic uremic syndrome as a child, but is otherwise healthy. She has a bike accident and is brought to the emergency department with sharp central and left lateral chest pain. Her EKG is normal. She undergoes a contrast-enhanced CT of the chest, which is interpreted as no evidence of aortic or other traumatic injury. Because of her chronic renal failure, she experiences contrast-induced acute kidney injury and needs to be observed in the hospital overnight. An older nodule detection system, typical for its day, flags 4 small possible nodules at the lung bases. The radiologist reviews each alert and decides only one of them, a 7-centimeter solid nodule, is a true positive. Follow-up is recommended according to the Fleischner Society criteria. However, in the ensuing days, Lane continues to have severe left lateral chest pain. Follow-up radiographs 5 days later detect minimally displaced fractures of the left anterolateral 7th and 8th ribs with no pneumothorax. The fractures are visible in retrospect on the CT. 6 months later, Lane undergoes follow-up CT at a facility near her home to address the lung nodule. The nodule is still present, but the prior images are not available, and a biopsy is recommended. Consider what Lane must do to retrieve the prior images. She travels to the hospital that treated her after the bike accident, pays a $10 fee to have a CD burned with her images, and delivers the CD to the imaging center. A CD. The images show that the nodule is unchanged and the biopsy is canceled. Now, something else happened in 2015. The success of neural networks and the latest wave of AI. In a few minutes, I'll describe how this revolutionary AI wave could affect Lane's story. But let's start at the beginning. Neural networks originated in 1958 with something called the perceptron, a simple neural network. Ironically, my undergraduate thesis in 1981 on neural networks concluded that they didn't work. And I wasn't alone. When I studied AI in the 1980s, it took 4 years and a PhD to build a system that could analyze just a few images. Today, with the right training data, we can build a system in days that has better accuracy than anything we built back then. What's changed is the massive compute power available today and the enormous growth in digital data. And computer scientists have figured out the tricks necessary to achieve excellent performance by improving the neural network a little bit, learning from each data point. So today, outstanding performance is learned from data over billions of iterations. This incredibly powerful wave of AI was sparked by something called ImageNet. Millions of labeled photographs scraped from the web were assembled by my Stanford computer science colleague, Fei-Fei Li, who's sometimes called the godmother of AI. Each ImageNet photo depicted a natural scene with a single object in the middle. Here's one example from ImageNet, the garden spider. The object is shown in different orientations and against different backgrounds, so this was a difficult image recognition task. There were over 20,000 different types of objects in the database. Each year, Fei-Fei and her colleagues held a competition to see whose algorithm would be best to recognize the objects in these photos. Here's a plot of the accuracy of the winning entries over time. As you can see, the accuracy started lower than 75%, but in 2012, when modern neural networks were first used, the performance began improving dramatically, approaching and then exceeding human performance. As the accuracy approached 100%, Fei-Fei and her colleagues realized that they needed a more difficult test. The next test, called automated captioning, features multiple objects in each image. The algorithms were challenged to identify and describe each object, as in this photo of a breakfast table. All these boxes and captions are generated by AI. When I saw that image in 2015, I thought, that looks a lot like what we do as radiologists. We review images, we find things, and we describe them in text. In the early days of this latest wave of AI, many thought radiologists would be replaced by AI. Some even recommended we stop training radiologists altogether. These dire predictions for the future of radiology naturally generated anxiety for our profession. It's not surprising we were a little uneasy. Previous information technology advances have made false promises. Electronic health records haven't improved the lives of those who use them. PACS systems, for all their benefits, have isolated us from our clinical colleagues who no longer stop by the reading room to see their patients' images. And even AI hasn't lived up to its promise for radiology. But as radiologists have been exposed to these technologies, our fears have rightfully receded. We soon realized that an algorithm that can recognize hemorrhage on a head CT can't recognize the other hundreds of findings we're trained to see. When an AI algorithm hears hoofbeats, it thinks horses, but radiologists call out the zebras. Anyone who works with AI knows machine intelligence is different, not better, than human intelligence. These systems complement our expertise, performing tasks that we find uninteresting or difficult. For example, finding a subtle rib fracture, assessing the growth of an irregular tumor mass, or quantifying the amount of emphysema in the lung. Because AI is well suited to help us, radiology now leads the way in medical AI. More than 3/4 of FDA-cleared AI models are designed to assist radiologists, That's amazing. The Vibrant AI Showcase here at this meeting features over 100 companies, and an exciting new world of generative AI is opening up to us. Just as ChatGPT has changed the world outside of medicine, similar large language models are already streamlining radiology reporting and may soon be able to generate a complete draft report automatically. My colleague Bao Do at the Palo Alto VA Hospital built a system that recognizes common abnormalities on musculoskeletal radiographs. The system inserts the findings detected by AI into a structured template to create a draft report. This automated reporting system has been used for thousands of patients across the VA system. Most of the time, the draft report requires no human intervention other than reviewing and signing it, resulting in time savings to the radiologists and richer, more consistent reports. RSNA's RADLEX standard terminology and the common data elements RSNA has produced in collaboration with the American College of Radiology will help make these automated structured reports possible. And that's just one example of how AI will help us. These new systems yield benefits across the imaging life cycle. For example, they can assist the requesting clinician by using medical record information to predict the likelihood that an imaging test will be positive. And machine learning algorithms can assist the reconstruction and enhancement of medical images. This can lead to reduced radiation, less intravenous contrast, shorter imaging times, and less expensive imaging devices. AI can help technologists solve image quality problems. This means fewer repeat images and patient callbacks. AI can triage the important imaging studies. When I arrive for a weekend call shift, there are often more than 100 studies waiting for me to review. Products available today can help me find the studies that are likely to contain clinically significant abnormalities, enabling earlier intervention. And the latest AI models have improved detection accuracy, leading to fewer false positives. AI opportunistic screening can alert us to information in the images we don't normally report, such as assessing body composition on an abdominal CT. And AI models can generate a differential diagnosis for a radiologist who might be out of his or her comfort zone, for example, characterizing a bone lesion seen on the corner of a chest radiograph. As AI gets better at analyzing images and drafting radiology reports automatically, it may help address the mismatch between the skyrocketing imaging volumes and the flat radiology capacity. All of these uses of AI can improve health equity and healthcare delivery in high and low resource settings throughout the world. And that's just the progress so far in AI. In the next few years, we're likely to see another major leap in the capabilities of medical AI models. Today, the training data sets used for medical AI systems don't even come close to the size used to train ChatGPT and other systems outside of medicine. This graph shows that there is a massive medical data gap, an over 100 times difference in the size of non-medical versus medical training data. Many laboratories, including my own, are actively working on medical imaging foundation models that will exhibit extraordinary capabilities from training on massive, high-quality medical data sets. Even the data from just one institution can substantially close the data gap. Consider what might occur when we train an imaging model on the petabytes of data available in just a single PAC system. Because the amount of training data relates directly to system performance, when these new systems come online in a few years, we're likely to see a ChatGPT moment in radiology, with new models showing sudden jumps in performance almost overnight. The accuracy of these systems across a range of imaging tasks will far surpass today's systems, not only for diagnosis, but also for prognosis and reporting. With that scenario in mind, let's return to our patient, Lane. Let's explore for a moment how Lane's healthcare story would be different when intelligent connections are made by these new AI capabilities. Now, after Lane's bike accident brings her to the emergency department, An AI-generated patient summary of her health information alerts the care team that she has renal insufficiency. Intravenous isotonic volume expansion with normal saline is employed, dramatically reducing her risk of renal injury and preventing a hospital admission. A suite of AI models capable of detecting essentially all relevant findings on her trauma CT, find the 2 rib fractures and identify a single solitary nodule that needs follow-up. Because newer machine learning models are more accurate, there are no false positive nodule alerts. These findings are inserted into a structured report automatically for the radiologist to review. Then a decision support system alerts the emergency department physician to the findings, and Lane is given instructions for rib pain management and nodule follow-up. In the comfort of her home, Lane interacts with a chatbot trained on high-quality medical data. It explains the radiology report at a reading level and in a language that she prefers, helping her understand her care plan. When her nodule is re-imaged at a facility near her home, the radiologist's PACS system automatically obtains her prior images from a national image exchange, enabling a direct comparison to show that the nodule is unchanged. This new approach has significant benefits for Lane and patients like her. These same enhancements also benefit radiologists and the entire healthcare system through improved efficiency, better patient care, and reduced malpractice risk. So, the question is, how do we get to this better world, a world enhanced by AI? First, good care starts with good data. The CD is almost as old as the fax machine and just as useless. We shouldn't be putting our sick patients through the hassle and cost of carrying their data between facilities. So let's ditch the disk. We need to urge our image exchange vendors to enable universal electronic image exchange. Many healthcare organizations already exchange information and medical record data over the internet, so why not exchange image information the same way? Second, we should encourage sharing of data to train AI. Surveys show that most patients are happy to contribute their data to research once they understand the intention is to improve life for patients like them. A great start would be to enable patients to easily opt in to donate their de-identified data for research, just like organ donation. We must consider patient and provider needs as we build these systems. As privacy advocates say, nothing about me without me. That means having a diverse interdisciplinary team in the room from day one, participating in key design decisions and guiding the collection of training data to assure it will produce a fair AI model that provides accurate answers for everyone. And in this era of cyber attacks, we all must preserve the privacy of patient data by taking every security precaution and by de-identifying data when used for research purposes. Third, I often say radiologists who use AI will replace radiologists who don't. And the same is true for other medical professionals. The future is humans and machines cooperating. Cooperation. However, we need a much better understanding of the human-machine connections to avoid automation bias and other ways in which machines can degrade human performance. For example, AI models that explain their reasoning and express their confidence, or the lack of it, should be the norm. Fourth, our regulatory framework needs to catch up with modern reality. Our current regulatory framework puts too much emphasis on the pre-market clearance process and not enough emphasis on what happens after models are deployed. Our regulators are doing a good job under difficult constraints, but they're laboring under a 50-year-old regulatory framework. It's like trying to run a 2024 road race on the chassis of a 1976 Oldsmobile Cutlass. And today's AI customers are often flying blind. Model developers should publish model cards, like a nutrition label for AI models, to help radiologists decide whether a model will work in their practice. Model cards are analogous to Table 1 in reports of clinical trials. They provide information about the model's training. For example, many of today's AI models are trained on adult data, but may be deployed in pediatric settings where they're unsuitable. Model cards will help us avoid these pitfalls. And we need a consumer reports for AI to provide unbiased comparisons of models, creating competition between vendors on accuracy and quality. One example of how this could work is the Medical Imaging and Data Resource Center, or MIDRIC. MIDRIC receives donated imaging data from healthcare facilities around the US and makes it ready for AI by organizing it in a consistent fashion and then making most of it public for AI researchers to use. But MIDRIC keeps part of the data sequestered and uses this private data for unbiased measurements of AI algorithms. Finally, AI should be rigorously evaluated to prove that these new tools are safe and effective, using prospective clinical trials for algorithms deployed in high-stakes settings. And after system implementation, AI and quality improvement experts at each site must work together to track adverse events and assure the system remains accurate as the data shifts, such as when a new device is brought online, a clinic opens with a different patient mix, or a new strain of viral pneumonia spreads among the population. In summary, this prescription for an AI future requires universal internet-based image exchange, easy ways for patients to donate their data to research, more research on human-computer interaction, modernized AI regulations, and more objective information about AI algorithms, as well as system performance monitoring over time. We too often think of high tech and high touch as opposite ends of a spectrum. High touch often signifies human-centered technologies that build human connections and improve our lives and our careers. And we typically think of high-tech systems as complicating our work and drawing us away from real-world human connections. But they're not opposites. The latest high-tech advances are likely to give us more opportunities for high-touch care. The latest wave of high-tech will allow us to delegate the least attractive parts of our jobs to the AI models while retaining the rewarding tasks, focusing on patient care and personal connection. These advances can upskill us all, reduce burnout, and bring better health care to underserved areas. And it can do so while we develop richer human connections like the ones we form in the reading room, in the exam room, and at meetings like this one. The secret to the success of radiology has always been our embrace of new technologies. From the discovery of the X-ray through ultrasound, CT, MRI, PACS, theranostic, and now these new intelligent systems. Our unique connection to technology places us in a pivotal role as the healthcare system adopts these new tools. The human-machine connection between radiologists and AI will enhance diagnostic accuracy and reduce workload, preventing burnout and freeing up time to do the work we love to do. We must continue to build these relationships. Forming intelligent connections from machine to machine, from human to machine, and from human to human will lead us to an exciting future. Building these intelligent connections will yield amazing technological innovations with reduced stress, a more balanced life, and ample time to nurture the most intelligent connections of all, the ones we build with each other. And of course, it's the people and our relationships that matter. You probably noticed all the smiles and the photos that Tessa showed. I first attended this incredible meeting over 30 years ago and was drawn to serve over the past decades because of the amazing RSNA staff who connect us as colleagues and amplify the impact we have on our profession. It's been my privilege to work closely with the RSNA staff as president this year. I'd also like to thank the RSNA Board of Directors, who've become like a professional family for me over these last 8 years. We've tackled many tough issues and decisions together, and yet we've managed to have so much fun along the way. It's been an honor to serve with all of you. And I'd like to thank all the members of the RSNA Informatics Council and committees where I served for the past many decades. My gratitude goes out to them and to all the volunteers whose innovative contributions to RSNA make the organization what it is today. I'd like to thank my family. First, my mother, who I know is watching on the virtual meeting. Hi, Mom. For giving me the values and the confidence to pursue my dreams. And I'd like to thank my wife and best friend and amazing partner, Mary, who's been so supportive, and my two children, Bryce and Claire, whose support make it possible, and even more important, made it fun for me to travel and work with a tremendous organization like RSNA. I thank you for your time and attention and wish you a wonderful week at RSNA 2024. Today's opening session is dedicated to the memory of Dr. Bruce Hillman, a renowned radiologist and founding editor of Academic Radiology and the Journal of the American College of Radiology. Dr. Hillman was a mentor, a valued colleague to many of us, and he once said to me, "I enjoy starting things," which was evident from his long and decorated career founding 2 journals and many other initiatives. He was appointed chair of the University of Virginia Department of Radiology in Charlottesville in 1992, where he was influential in developing the institution's first outpatient imaging center and oversaw the transition from film-based imaging to a PACS system. Dr. Hillman was a recipient of the RSNA Outstanding Researcher Award, the RSNA Gold Medal, and in recognition of his lifetime service to radiology, he was awarded gold medals from the Association of Academic Radiology, the Society of Uroradiology, and the American College of Radiology. We're fortunate to have Dr. Hillman's son, Aaron Hillman, here with us today. Aaron, in honor of your father's commitment to and contribution to the field of radiology, it's my pleasure to present you with this memento of our dedication of today's opening session to the memory of Dr. Bruce J. Hillman. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Langlotz, esteemed RSNA board members, and all of you RSNA delegates. I am humbled today to accept this honor and memoriam for my father, Bruce. He cared so much for this organization, its members, and the purpose it serves. He was hugely invested in the role that the RSNA plays in the development of diagnostic imaging and the progress of the technology to provide better care for patients around the world. A colleague of my father recently remarked on the fact that despite my best efforts, somehow I ended up working in digital healthcare anyways. Not as a diagnostician as my father may have wished, but still serving healthcare and its patients as a technology partner. Since that conversation, I've reflected on why I also chose healthcare. In summary, the role model of what my father displayed, what you all do, is inspiring, ambitious, and selfless, and I hope that in my own way, I can follow in his footsteps and your footsteps and continue to support this noble work for many years to come. As this year's RSNA commences, I hope that you will all keep your commitment and mission in mind and approach this opportunity while we're all together to spend this time enriching your knowledge and network further. I'm sure you'll bring home your learnings and share the best of what we have to offer with your healthcare systems, patients, and communities. Thank you all for honoring my father, Bruce, by carrying on his legacy of commitment and service through this dedication and RSNA 2025. I know he would be truly touched by this recognition of his lifelong devotion to the RSNA and the field of radiology. Thank you.
And now we're fortunate to hear from a transformational leader pushing the boundaries of technology and radiology, Dr. Nina Kotler. Her unique background in clinical radiology and applied mathematics fuels her vision for technological innovation as a path to drive value in radiology. She was the first radiologist to join Radiology Partners and currently serves as the Associate Chief Medical Officer for Clinical AI, with extensive experience evaluating and implementing AI systems. An industry expert, she is a frequent international lecturer and consults for companies from aerospace to healthcare. I've had the pleasure of witnessing Dr. Kotler's passion for using AI to improve patient care and foster belonging in medicine through our work together on the RSNA Radiology Informatics Council and in her role as an associate fellow at the Stanford Center for Artificial Intelligence in Medicine and Imaging. She sees AI not only as a tool to improve quality, but also as a way to optimize the experience of both patients and physicians. Please welcome Dr. Nina Kotler to the stage to present the opening session lecture, "The Only Way to Predict the Future is to Create It."
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. I am actually, after that introduction, I'm curious what I'm going to say. But today, what I'm going to be talking to you about is the future of radiology, the future of our profession. The only way to predict the future is to create it. Here are my disclosures. We have to change how we practice radiology today. And I'm not talking about a small incremental change. I'm talking about a step change, a significant disruption in what we're doing today, a transformation of our processes. The current processes and our current technology just aren't serving us. We are losing the race between capacity and volume. We have a massive amount of influx of volume coming into the system. Our turnaround times are increasing. And the problem when you have something like that happen is that other people try to solve your problems. They come in from other industries, perhaps not even healthcare, and they make their own predictions about what is going to happen in radiology. We've all seen this. This is a prediction from Jeff Hinton in 2016. Clearly not true, but what he was doing was he was providing a vision for the future of radiology. Arguably a very incorrect vision, but we need to be the ones, radiologists, people working in radiology, we need to be the ones creating our own vision. And my vision for the future of radiology is very different than Jeff's vision. And the only thing I actually agree with him about is something he said in 2023. It's not about the pigeon comment, but rather the role of radiologists will evolve from doing perceptual things to doing far more cognitive things. So let's think about a future for radiology that we create. Now just imagine in this image that Tom Cruise from Minority Report is a radiologist, and Dr. Cruise is working on a system that is providing him with information. Now, right now, the information he's getting is mostly morphologic information, right? It's imaging, looking for differences between how things look. But then artificial intelligence comes in. We now have access to more information, right? Artificial intelligence at its baseline adds structure to unstructured data. So we're getting more information coming into our system, and who is looking at that? Who's interpreting it? Well, it's the radiologist. Now remember that artificial intelligence is not always right. You have a radiologist that's there to oversee it. They may tweak something. Right? There's a lot of false positives that are out there. We want to dismiss those. We want to make a change in how something is measured. The radiologist should be able to do that directly within their system. And then the AI should be able to run again and provide the radiologist with more information based on that human cybernetic collaboration. Now, artificial intelligence is not the only kind of additional data that is coming into the system. You've got molecular imaging, radiomics, genomics. You've got patient wearables. No one needs to go to the doctor once a year. Why wait for that annual physical appointment in order to get your labs done? We can get data continuously, every moment of the day. So who's going to interpret all of this additional information, this massive influx of information? I think, to me, it makes the most sense to be the radiologist. Now, this is why I went into radiology when I was in medical school and making a decision. It was because the radiologist is the clinician's clinician, the doctor's doctor. We provide a consultation based on the imaging data that's available to us to the referring clinician. And we can do the same. But what we're going to have is a lot more information that we are adding into the system. And with that, we can take the context of that patient within all this system, within the information, and provide that to the referring clinician. So what my prediction is for the future is that we are going to move from what I'm calling the imaging expert to the information expert. And the one place where I agree with Jeff Hinton is that we're going to move from a perceptive task to more cognitive tasks, far more rewarding. And you have to be able to do that within a system that makes sense. So I'm not showing you a typical PACS system. What I'm showing you is what I'm calling an integrated information and communication platform. Has to be integrated. And it's not just about providing pictures, it's about providing information so we can contextualize that information and communicate it. Now, here's a vision, but a vision is not good if I don't tell you how to get there. How do we get from here to there? And I will suggest that what Kurt talked about today and the theme for this year's RSNA is going to help us get there. It's through intelligent connections. We need to have intelligent connections between humans and technology, and technology and technology. So let's start with the first. Now, I was a math major growing up, and I love arithmetic. It's very simple. It's very repeatable. Right? 1 + 1 is always going to equal 2. But that's not always the case within healthcare. Now imagine in this system, we are replacing this with a radiology practice that's using AI. So all the way on the right, the answer is the standard of care, and that's the radiologist. So we're going to put the radiologist on the right-hand side of the equation. How can you get 1 + 1 being less than the radiologist? Well, if you're adding radiology and AI together, you can get a worse outcome than the radiologist on its own. And that happens when bias is introduced. Now, bias isn't just introduced based on the data that was trained on, it's introduced between the interaction between the human and the AI system. That's a problem. What about this other option? What if you just replaced radiologists with AI? Well, then you're talking about autonomous AI. And you're not getting the additional benefit. We're maintaining the standard of care, or probably worsening the standard of care, and we can't afford to do that in healthcare. What we really want is the bottom scenario, where you have a radiologist who is an expert in the area of radiology AI, who is informed about how the AI works, partnering with a transparent and explainable AI system, and that together can be better than either one alone. That's augmenting human intellect. We don't want the first two, we want the third one. All right, so how do we get there? In my practice, we have a very large practice, and we've been using AI for quite a few years. We have run over 200 million exams or reports through some kind of AI. Not images, actual full exams. This is data from back in April, so it's a lot bigger than that right now. And with that, we have learned a lot of lessons about how these two systems work well together. And we're going to talk about 3 of them today. So lesson number 1, AI helps improve radiologist accuracy. Here's a 50-year-old male come in with history. This is actual history, suspected PE. I don't even think it's billable, but that's what we get, right? Suspected PE. So we got a CTPA exam. There is no PE. The radiologist didn't see a PE. The AI didn't see a PE. Awesome. But what the radiologist didn't mention in their report, but the AI did find, a different AI system that's looking only for rib fracture, found this left anterior rib fracture. And the history was probably anterior chest wall pain, but we didn't get that history. So in theory, we were biased in looking at this case. We were biased by the history. 56-year-old male comes in with left flank pain. We find a reason for the left flank pain. You can see the left-sided hydronephrosis is stranding. There was a distal left ureteral obstructing calculus. Awesome. We found it. But what we didn't mention were these two tiny foci of free air that the AI mentioned. AI was just looking for free air, found those. Really hard to see, couldn't even see them without putting it on lung windows. In this case, we were biased by satisfaction of search. There's a 52-year-old male comes in with shortness of breath. Now, this was during the Delta wave of COVID pneumonia. So a while ago, you can see there was COVID. And we did call that. But what we didn't mention in the report was the small pulmonary embolus identified by the AI, not mentioned in the radiology report. I would say the radiologist in this case could be biased by all the distracting pathology or satisfaction of search. 66-year-old male with altered mental status coming in for a stroke evaluation. We get a CTA of the head and neck. And a CTA of the head and neck, we're looking for some kind of occlusion, some kind of vascular cutoff. So we're looking very centrally at the vessels, anterior circulation, posterior circulation. And there was none. The AI didn't see one, the radiologist didn't see one, both were correct. But what the radiologist didn't mention was this acute cervical spine fracture, and the AI did. I would say the radiologist in this case was biased by the exam selection. 47-year-old male with subarachnoid hemorrhage and headache. Young person comes in with subarachnoid hemorrhage. You're looking for a ruptured brain aneurysm. And where's the most common location of a ruptured brain aneurysm? Right here, Circle of Willis. There wasn't one. Didn't see an aneurysm there. But there was an aneurysm at the skull base coming off the left pica. Unusual location, not mentioned in the radiologist report, identified, we actually found two of these, identified by the AI system. Biased by an uncommon location. So let's talk a little bit more about bias. Now, we always think about it in a very negative way, and bias is a bad thing in general. But can we think about it slightly differently? Could there be a good part of bias? And it reminds me of when I was an early year resident, and early year resident is, you're uncomfortable, you don't really know that much, and you don't feel like you're adding more value. And I was told by one of my professors that I do. I add value to the system because the highest quality combination is an attending plus an early year resident. That's because the attending knows where to look, so they're looking very specifically in certain areas based on their education, their training, their experience. As an early year resident, I had no idea where to look. I was probably looking in all the wrong places. And I, every once in a while might mention something that's corner film identification that the attending then says, yeah, that's actually something, let's report that. Right? That's a high quality combination. Now, I also mentioned a lot of false positive things that were dismissed, but the two together are a great combination. Unfortunately, this does not scale very well. But what does scale? What if we had a combination of radiologist plus AI? Okay, so the radiologist, the experienced radiologist knows where to look, same as before. And AI is looking at every pixel on the image, or every voxel, if you're talking about 3D imaging. And then, because of its training data, it's looking at certain information. Maybe that information that it's looking at based on its training is a little different than the data that the radiologist is looking at. And it's that difference that can add value. And in fact, we found this to be true with almost every AI system that we tested, at least every AI system that we will deploy. We will not deploy if we don't find any possibility for enhanced detection. And this was a brain aneurysm model that I showed you earlier. And we found that AI improved the sensitivity of the radiologist by 24%. We found 24% more brain aneurysms if you would put the AI together with the radiologist. Now, the opposite is true, and we're going to talk about it as well, that the radiologist improved the AI sensitivity by 34%. So lesson number one, AI improves radiology accuracy because RADs and AI have different biases. Or maybe it's different experience, different training. And when they don't overlap, that's when you get the benefit. Lesson number two, radiologists improve AI accuracy. Well, you already kind of got a glimpse of that before. I'll go through a few examples. So here are 3 non-contrast head CTs. A lot of patients come in for altered mental status. They're moving quite a bit. And all of these were called positive for intracranial hemorrhage. And it's a streak artifact. Very easy for a radiologist to dismiss a lot of false positives. Here's a 47-year-old male came in with diffuse abdominal pain. And this small focus of gas right here in the mesentery was called free air. And on a single image, it could look like that. We had this case with multiple different causes. In this case, it was caused by gas in the tip of the appendix. Now, this is something that we as radiologists would never mistake because we're not looking at slice by slice. We're actually following bowel as we go around. We're looking images in a different way than AI is. And this AI was not looking at exams in 3 dimensions. And it's that difference that adds the augmentation. Here's a 93-year-old male after a fall. There were 2 cervical spine fractures, both identified by the radiologist, but this one was not picked up by the AI. Now, why wasn't it? Now, AI doesn't look at every image of a study we think it might, but it's actually not. Generally, it's looking at one series. And in this case, the series it's looking at is the sagittal series. Now, if I make lines for you showing what the sagittal slices would look like, notice that that red slice passes directly through the fracture. A lot harder to see a fracture on sagittal imaging in that case. You're seeing some bone, then you see no bone, and then you see bone again. The AI missed this. Here's another 65-year-old female with headache. Now, the AI picked up this area of increased density within the basal ganglia on the right, and it called it hemorrhage. Reasonable. We had the prior. And a lot of the AI systems that are in use today, not all of them, but many of them are not looking at priors. We were able to dismiss this. So lesson number 2, radiologists help improve AI accuracy. And that's because we're looking at things, we're interpreting them differently. Lesson number 3, radiologists and AI are better together. So remember this case, this was a 50-year-old with suspect PE or rule out pulmonary embolus. And the AI found this left-sided rib fracture. Awesome. When we were running this at the beginning for about a year, I took a look at every single case that was discrepant between the AI and the radiologist. And when I looked at this one, I said, oh yeah, there is a rib fracture. And I looked and found 3 more rib fractures. 3 more rib fractures that were super subtle. I'm sure that I would not have seen this originally. But because the AI had pointed it out, all of a sudden, I'm thinking more specifically about rib fractures, and I can become more sensitive to that finding. Now, this wasn't true only for rib fractures. It was true for almost every AI model that we took a look at. The AI might find one thing, and then you as a radiologist can go in and find even more. So what is that called? That is a psychological phenomena called priming. Priming of your brain. Together, using that, the AI and the radiologist can cause an outsized impact. So let's go back to our arithmetic. Now remember, if we decrease bias, that will hopefully be out of the way. And here we are at augmenting human intellect. But we want to get better than either alone. In fact, we want to get an outsized impact. And we can start getting that outsized impact through priming. So lesson number 3, radiologists and AI are better together. We have non-overlapping abilities, that's the benefit, and we can improve that even more through brain priming. We can't ignore bias though. We talked about the, quote, good part of bias. Mostly bias is harmful. And bias, when I think about it, it's not just the bias in the training data. All AI systems are going to be biased. There's no way to prevent that. But what you can do is you can mitigate it at the point of care. What you have to watch out for is there's also bias between a human and an AI. So what kind of bias am I talking about? You've probably heard at least some of these terms before: automation bias, complacency, distrust, and another one that I am calling blind trust. And we're going to go through these. Now, automation bias and complacency, those on the left-hand side of the screen, that's when the AI is wrong. You have to be careful when the AI is wrong and the radiologist accepts that, or the end user accepts that. Automation bias means you get a false positive from the AI and it's accepted. Complacency is when you get a false negative from the AI and it's accepted. Now those on the other side are when the AI is right. And you actually can have a problem when the AI is right. If the end user doesn't trust that AI result, then you're not going to get a good outcome. And blind trust I'll talk about in a minute. So the way I like to think about this is by creating a confusion matrix where you've got user accuracy on one side and AI accuracy on the other. When user and AI are accurate, green check mark, usually that's not going to be a problem. Right? Those are cases where you're both right, we're probably going to get the right answer. User and AI inaccurate, well, both of them, it's going to be hard to resolve those. But where do we want to make an improvement? We want to make an improvement on the diagonal axis in the gray boxes. When the AI is accurate, we want the user to accept the result. And when the AI is inaccurate, we want the user to throw away the result. So how do you manage that? Well, this is where bias is a problem. Automation bias and complacency hurt us from accepting an inaccurate result, and distrust hurts us from accepting an accurate result. So these are things we have to resolve. Now there's another one that I mentioned, I would say, which is blind trust. And you wouldn't think this would be a problem. If the user is right and the AI is right, you shouldn't have any issue. But actually, in fact, you can. And that's what I call blind trust, and we'll go through an example of a few of these. Right, here's one of automation bias. This is a non-contrast head CT, non-contrast. Now, sometimes the wrong part of the study gets run on an AI, and there was a AI looking for brain aneurysm that actually grabbed the non-contrast portion of the study instead of the post-contrast. Or you shouldn't look for a brain aneurysm on a non-contrast. This one just happened to pick up the wrong one by mistake. It's an orchestration error. And it identified what it thought was a brain aneurysm, which was just a little piece of the tip of the sphenoid bone, right? It was partial volume artifact with bone, which is why it looked dense. And the report came out possible left M1 aneurysm. That's automation bias, accepting an incorrect AI result. 34-year-old male with Down syndrome and slurred speech. Now the image on the left, non-contrast head CT, shows some calcification in the cerebellum that was called intracranial hemorrhage by the AI system. And this, I don't think any radiologist would call this intracranial hemorrhage. It's a portion of Farr's disease. The problem is if you don't have a radiologist that's ingesting these results, then they might think that this really is intracranial hemorrhage, or maybe they're not even looking at the images and they're just accepting the result. And they don't give this patient TPA, where you can see they also have a dense MCA sign. Right? They need to be treated for stroke. Automation bias, likely someone who's not an expert in imaging. This is for a detection and diagnosis product for breast cancer. And scores that are under 15 to 20 usually have a very small chance of having underlying malignancy. Now, the negative predictive value of AI tools tends to be very high because it is inversely proportional with the disease prevalence, and disease prevalence tends to be low. So normally you get a negative study and generally you can rely on it, but every once in a while you can't. How do you find that needle in the haystack? And here's an example. How easy would it be to go by this small invasive lobular carcinoma? Would you pick that up if you have a pile of all negative AI studies? That's complacency. 27-year-old male with sickle cell disease, chest pain and shortness of breath. You can see the cause perhaps of the chest pain. There's a left-sided, right-sided pulmonary embolus. And this was picked up by the AI. Now it also could be agreed upon by a referring clinician or a radiologist, anyone, right? Everyone would agree to that. So you could go ahead and treat it. But in this case, you really wouldn't want to go ahead and treat it because the patient's main problem is not the pulmonary embolus, it's the aortic dissection. And with hemorrhage in the mediastinum, you go ahead and treat the PE, there's going to be a problem for this patient. That's what I'm calling blind trust. The AI is right, maybe even the end user is right, but there's another issue that is causing the patient's problem. Now, I don't think a radiologist would ever recommend treatment, of course, but it could be for someone who's not an expert in imaging. Bias at the point of care can absolutely be mitigated. We're not doing a massive amount of that right now, except that the end user should be an expert in the underlying image. You should have a radiologist reviewing the AI results. and that radiologists should be informed about where the AI tends to make mistakes and where it tends to be right. But not only do you need that, you also need AI systems that are transparent and explainable and talk about their inner thoughts and how they're working. How confident are they in the decisions that they're making where the output is binary? Let's talk about human-to-human connections. We do speak a lot about governance in AI, and that is very important. There's a lot been written about it. How do you oversee AI to make sure that you're doing the right thing? I'm not going to talk about that today. What I'm going to talk about instead is something that I find actually more relevant. On a day-to-day basis, I am not working with my governance committee to figure out how to manage the operations of AI. I'm working with an operations committee, and that is a small group of people who are thinking about how do you manage this day-to-day, problem solving on a continual basis. Now, this team has to be a very cohesive team, and there are 4 things generally that we're looking for. Small but mighty team has to work very well together. You have to pick people that communicate well and people that augment each other. Number 2, you have to have ownership in the process. Now, a lot of radiologists were consultants. We tend to come in and provide a consultation. Operations team, you are not looking for a consultant, you're looking for an owner, an executive. An executive is called an executive because they execute. And you need someone that is going to own the problem and not just provide a consultation and walk away. Now, you have to get things done, right? Innovation, you have to fail fast. You try a lot of things and you keep moving forward. You have to have a bias toward action, which means your processes have to be very different than the processes you're deploying today in radiology. Radiology is a very mature business. Our processes are sort of prolonged. It's a great book to read, The Innovator's Dilemma. You cannot run an innovation process with the mature processes of a much larger business. All right, so who do we have? Who do we include in this operational team? I will always argue that AI is a clinical tool. And with AI being a clinical tool, one of the most important components of a team are a bunch of clinicians. These are all radiologists that we employ on our team. Those in blue are paid. They're employed some of their time, or all of their time, to be just thinking about AI and managing AI from a clinical perspective. Those in green are volunteers. There's a lot of people who are interested in being involved. You want to surround yourself with enough people. We have 14. Now, there's also another really important group of people, and those are what I call the cat herders. The cat herders, we have 3 people who are operational folks. They have to get the right people to the table in order to meet all of our very lofty objectives. And that means they need to be communicating with all of these different groups, getting them to do what we need them to do without a single person reporting to them. They have to have a lot of capabilities: technological understanding, clinical understanding, operational, and communication expertise. A diverse team will always outperform a homogeneous one. We have a very diverse team. This one just showing you from a gender diversity. I'm very passionate about diversity, and this is something that we are very intentional about. But we also look for diversity in terms of personalities. How do people come to the table? How are they thinking? And for that, we use the Enneagram. I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but it's a wonderful test to understand a little bit about how people are thinking. And we have a very diverse set of personalities. Now, inscribed on the Oracle of Delphi at the Temple of Apollo, inscribed in the rock, in the stone, it says, "Know thyself." And that is one of the most important things that I think about as I'm running this group, is I have to understand how I work. And I'm there at the top with a little question mark above me, Enneagram 9. I surround myself with the people that augment that. I have a lot of questions about things. I have trouble making decisions. I surround myself with people who are very structured in how they think, very clear in the decisions that they're making, and that augments me as a leader. So one thing I didn't talk about was the last leg of the AI stool. and that's technology. Now, that's not the IT that we're talking about today, the IT that's just supporting what we do. This is technology that is providing innovation. And we couldn't do anything without it. So let's talk about the last component of these intelligent connections, which is technology to technology. So Kurt mentioned foundation models. A lot of you, if you haven't heard about them, you'll be hearing a lot about it at RSNA. There's a lot of synonyms people are using. They're not exactly the same, but they tend to be used interchangeably. Foundation models, frontier models, Gen AI or generative AI, vision language models or VLMs, or large vision language models, LVLM. So what are they? They're based on a deep learning technology called transformer technology, although there's new versions now. Transformer technology was what formed our original large language models, the original sort of chat GPTs that we were using a couple of years ago. Now you combine that with a vision transformer. So the original transformer was a language transformer. Now you use that for vision, for imaging. You combine that together and put that on a background of generative AI where it's generating an output. And that's what we're seeing everywhere in the world today. There are multiple different foundation models, or what some people are calling Gen AI tools, that are available. And many people, and you will see this on the showcase floor, are taking some of these, the large language model component of it, and they are applying it, that large language model, to radiology. They're fine-tuning it for radiology speech and radiology wording. Now, there's new models that are coming out that are looking at creating these large vision models, not by transitioning them or fine-tuning them from something that was trained on cats and dogs, but actually creating them from scratch with radiology-only data. And this is what is going to start transforming how we practice. So what's the difference? So this is a traditional convolutional neural network, AI. This is what we're using almost completely today. I don't think there's a foundation model that's out there that's been FDA approved yet. So what does it do? It takes a look at this chest x-ray, it sees that lung nodule, because it's a lung nodule AI. It tells you yes or no, there's a lung nodule. Okay, in this case, it's telling you yes, there's a lung nodule. What's the difference between that and a foundation model? Well, a foundation model, you've got what some people are calling Gen AI. It's taking a look at this chest x-ray, and it finds the lung nodule, but it's looking at everything else the way that we are. It's a general solution. So it says, yeah, I see a lung nodule, but I'm also looking for the other 100 things that you're looking for in a chest x-ray, and I don't see any of that. And so with that, I can actually create a full report for you, both with the preamble, the part above the findings, along with your findings and impression. Now this is what's going to help us with efficiency. The AI tools that we have today are not significantly improving our efficiency. We need to transform our efficiency, and this is going to be one way that we do it. Now let's look at a 3D foundation model. So here is a CT scan of the abdomen and pelvis on a patient who had a recent trauma. Now we have your foundation model AI, and it's finding quite a few things, right? A splenic lacerations with active bleeding. It's finding a 11th rib fracture on the left, hemoperitoneum, and then nothing else, right? Trauma confined in the upper abdomen. And it can create a full report for us. That's great. So is this the answer? I was asked once in a panel discussion, what is the one panacea? What's the one AI system that's going to resolve everything for us, that's going to answer all of our questions? Is this it? My answer is no. It's an amazing capability, and it is going to transform how we think about radiology, how we practice radiology, but it's just the beginning. Now, one of my favorite values is teamwork. I love the idea of having high-functional teams, because high-functional teams can do more than any single individual can do on their own. Now, what if we applied this through healthcare and technology? What if you had a team of tech and you combined them together? Could they outperform any single model? Well, let's go through that example that we saw before, using what I'm calling our data and AI ecosystem. In this case, We're just going to use 3 of those components. You've got a foundation model, you've got an API to connect with your ED physician or your trauma physician, and then you have access to the AAST grading injury scale. Now, what does that Gen AI look like? Well, now you've got your Gen AI system, it's created your report, same as before. Awesome, amazing start. Now I'm adding in the AST grading, and guess what happens? All of a sudden, that description about your splenic laceration, it now tells you what the grade is. And it can provide that for you, so you don't need to leave your workflow, go look it up. You just need to validate the accuracy. Now I'm adding in a connection to the emergency department physician or the trauma physician, and we can automatically report that study, the issues, the critical findings. You can automatically present that to the referring clinician. They can acknowledge it, and guess what? That can get addended directly into your report. You just then oversee it. So all of these sequential steps that normally have to happen no longer happen in this. You are overseeing the accuracy, but your workflow is significantly improved. Now that's just with 2 other things added to the foundation model or Gen AI. What are other workflows that we could automate? Think of any sequential workflow. One of the ones that I get most frustrated with are when I have an incomplete exam. It's like a lot of processes that happen, and a bunch of people, I'm even getting sick of waiting for this. So that's 3 to 5 people that are all touching this incomplete exam workflow. 12 sequential steps and a lot of wasted time, including being taken away from what you were doing. We can automate this with 3 components. A foundation model or something that will tell us if the exam is complete. It can do it for an ultrasound, make sure the ultrasound worksheet is there. It can do it for a CT. It can do it for MR. It can do it for an X-ray, for anything. And then some kind of connection to the radiology tech and an API to the work list. Those 3 things together, that can automate that system. So what are the other kinds of systems? Those are just 2 examples. Well, I've thought of a few, whether it's involving the work list, involving the viewer, or involving your dictation system. And it's not about any one of these in particular. Each one has a small incremental change. It's about combining them together. As you add module after module, you're continuously improving your workflow. And I thought of a few more. I just thought I'd put some on the sheet for you. It's a lot. We are only limited by the breadth of data and tools in this data ecosystem. So my question to you is, what tools can you imagine? What workflows could you automate? The only way to predict the future is to create it. We should be the ones that are defining our own future. We're the only ones that know what these workflows are that need to be improved. We need to be speaking out about those. We need to be working with vendors. We need to be creating these. We need to create these tools that will change how we practice radiology. I'm going to leave you with this quote, which I think is very appropriate these days. It's not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change, Charles Darwin. I suggest that over the next couple of years, we are going to have a massive amount of change in our profession. And I encourage you all to accept this change, embrace the change, be a leader of change within your organization, because only through this kind of change and acceptance of this change do we get to create our vision for the future. With that, I'd like to say thank you.
Well, Nina, thank you for that incredible talk. Your unparalleled experience implementing AI definitely showed through. I thought it was a lot of wonderful lessons for all of us and a great compliment to my address. So on behalf of RSNA, it's my great pleasure to present you with this memento commemorating your presentation of the opening session lecture. Thank you all for joining the opening session. One of the highlights of attending RSNA in Chicago is connecting with colleagues and meeting new friends. We have a brand new event this year, starting upstairs right now, the RSNA Welcome Reception. I invite all of you to the Connection and Learning Centers to enjoy this new reception. Keep building connections and have a wonderful week at RSNA 2024. Thank you all.